divorce and you can't pay your bills and you got to file, your credit card's in $15,000, you have to file for bankruptcy. If you do it right and you have a good lawyer and the process goes good, that debt goes away and you get what's called a fresh start. You get to start over. Bankruptcy provides a fresh start for the honest debtor, is what they say. And sadly, the same is true for corporations. They may not be able to pay all their debts. Some of the note holders may have to take stock. Some of the unsecured creditors may have to vote for a plan in which they say, we'll get 75 cents on the dollar. And we'll not only, that's horrible, we get only 75 cents on the dollar, but Maxim gets to keep 5%. You might end up voting for that just to get the darn thing over with and go on with your lives. And when that happens, that's called a discharge, and the debt is discharged and it just goes away. And that's what happens to bankruptcy. Summarize what you think. All right, that's it. Summarize what you think will happen regarding debt versus value. Don't have a clue. I don't have a clue. There are people with very strong feelings on both sides of the issue. And they both have hired, and the good news is that Palco has to pay their lawyers for both sides. But there are people with very strong views as to whether or not this company is worth more than the debt or not worth as much as the debt. And that's just going to have to be resolved. And they'll either reach a resolution or the bankruptcy court will decide. That's how this is resolved. And I don't know the answer to that. Impact to me as a retiree. If you're a retiree and you're receiving your pension, it should have no impact on your pension. If you're a retiree and you're receiving a pension, it should have no impact on your pension. If you're a retiree and you have a claim, if the company is valued at more than the debt, your insurance will want to pay your claim in full, and you'll get paid in full. If the company is valued at less than the debt, there's a chance that you will take and you have a claim. Put aside the pension, because your pension should continue to be paid. If your claim, you may have to take a percentage of your claim in value. You may not get paid in full. As a current employee, shouldn't make any difference whatsoever. As a current employee, as long as this company is operating, you'll get paid your wages and benefits. But that is one of the key questions. What's the value of that timberland and the real estate? And the answer to that question is a function of how much can it harvest? How much can it harvest in a sustained way? In view of environmental regulations and in view of how many trees there are. You could cut all that tomorrow, but then you wouldn't have any trees for the next day. So what can you do? And you know it's much better than I do. How can the workers protect their pensions when their proceedings are in Texas? I certainly understand the nervousness about pensions. And if I was relying on a pension from a company owned by Charles Horowitz, I would like it a bit before or after bankruptcy. To be frank with you, if there's any that your pensions are at risk, they're certainly not at risk right now. If there was any risk to their pension to it in the future, it would be wildly publicized, and you as an individual would not have to go to Texas. There would be plenty of people down there fighting for all retirees as a collective group, but you yourself wouldn't have to go to Texas. What can be done when a corporation uses bankruptcy as part of their business plan? You know, I teach a class in business organizations at the law school, and one of the things we study is when are shareholders liable? You know, if you are in an accident with the bus company, it's a private bus company, and the bus runs over you. There's a guy who owns the stock in the bus company. Can you sue them? Answer, usually not. Usually you can just go after the corporation. Is that fair? Well, no, it probably isn't fair because you're not going to get enough money if the corporation goes bankrupt, but that's the way the law is set up. Shareholders of corporations have limited liability. Bankruptcy is part of our legal system. It is subject to use and is subject to abuse. If Charles Horowitz was the greatest guy in the world, and he may be, because I don't know the guy, but if he was the greatest guy in the world, and he had a company with too much debt on it, the right thing to do is to put it into bankruptcy and get rid of the debt. That's the right thing to do. Who determines the value of the collateral? It's really bad. This is where bankruptcy lawyers get embarrassed, because it's determined by the judge. And if there's no agreement, Horowitz will get appraisers and experts and foresters and economists, and they'll get up on the stand and testify, and then the people who have opposing views will get their experts and appraisers and foresters, and the regulators will weigh in and say, well, yeah, it's worth so much if you cut this, but we're not going to let you cut this. And the environmentalists will say, and by the way, you're flooding the bejesus out of so-and-so, so you can't cut there. And he'll say, yeah, but there's no law that prevents me, and I probably can, so it's worth more, and the judge will make a decision. And I wish there was a better way to do it. It is estimated that Horowitz made close to $3.5 billion off of Palco since the 1986 takeover, since he recently purchased the company for $900 million, and currently still owes $750 million. Does the judge take his profits into consideration? No. The answer is no. If there's any improper, illegal activity, the judge will look at it. But, and you know, that maybe he may be happier, and that's maybe one reason he's happier in Texas than California. Can you elaborate on the state agencies as a participant in this case? What agencies, what role are they playing? And you know, the answer to that, whoever asked that question should come talk to Mark or to Tracy, because they're much closer to the answer to that question than I am. I know that the 7 or 8 state regulatory agencies joined the motion to move the case to California, but I don't know who they are, and I don't really know what role they play.
It's mainly the resources agencies. CDF, Department of Forestry, Fish and Game, Water Quality, Geology, so mostly the resources agencies and around the Habitat Conservation Plan.
How will the bankruptcy affect the plans for Scotia, either annexation or community services district? The town requires very significant infrastructure improvements like new sewer lines, etc. Is Palco going to be able to dodge this expense? That's an excellent question, and I really don't know the answer. And I've never seen a situation like this. Bankruptcy allows people to shed assets with a negative value. But I understand they were going to sell the, I just don't understand this issue well enough to answer on this question. I don't understand this issue. I can't imagine that if they want to retain any goodwill in the community at all, and that's maybe an open question, but I can't imagine that if they want to retain any goodwill, they'll simply walk away from their obligations to the people who live in that town. But to be honest with you, I don't understand that issue well enough. Payment rules. Priority, secured, unsecured, shareholder. Where do severance payments fall? This is a very complicated question. For the most part, they fall here. They're unsecured credit. I'm sorry to say I didn't write the rules, and it is an outrage. But priority claims include current wages, post-bankruptcy payments to vendors, post-bankruptcy payments to workers, any other claims necessary to keep the company operating during the bankruptcy. They also include, per worker, $10,000 in unpaid wage claims as of the bankruptcy. It's possible that, and those are priority claims, they have to be paid in full off the top. Anything left over would fall into this bucket. It's possible, and it's a complicated legal issue, and I actually talked with a lawyer at my old firm about this afternoon, because just to see if there's anything new on this subject. It's possible that, but this is unpaid wage claims. If you retired from Palco